Hello, in today's session, we're going to resolve a data analysis problem using Microsoft Access SQL. The problem that we will solve first appeared on 2013 ModelOff competition. Those of you who do not know, ModelOff is a challenging annual competition for students and professionals that test their financial modeling skills. SQL, or a structured query language, is a computer language that is used to work with data stored in relational databases, such as Microsoft Access. As part of this problem, let's imagine us working as a data analyst for a leading hardware retailer. We were asked to analyze recent sales data for one of our locations. The data presented covers the first 6 months of 2013 and has a line for each different item type sold on each invoice. One or more lines may be associated with a single invoice. Note that each line also has a quantity field that represents the quantity of that particular item type sold on that invoice. Each invoice is associated with one manager on duty and one sales assistant. So looking at the snapshot of the data presented, we can see that it was prepared in Microsoft Excel. ModelOff, being a financial modeling competition, envisions that people would use Excel to resolve this problem. However, since it is a data analysis problem, let's use a database to solve it. In our case, that database will be Microsoft Access. To get started, let's visit ModelOff website, navigate to the Past Questions section, find the data analysis problem, download the sample Excel workbook, and then import that data into an Access database. So we would have to go to the External Data ribbon, select Excel, find the location of our file, select the file, click Open, click OK, and proceed with the wizard. So the first message that we're seeing is telling us that Access will automatically rename some of the field names. Then Access automatically recognizes a data type within the date column. Let's assign some primary keys, and let's rename our table to table ModelOff. Let's finish, and we're done. Now we have our data stored in Access database, and we can create Access queries and use AccessSQL to answer the questions that ModelOff is asking us. To create a new query, we need to go to the Create menu, select Query Design, choose our table, and then switch to the SQL view. So the first question that ModelOff is asking us is the following. Over the entire analysis period, what was the quantity of item 10 sold while John Jones was the manager on duty? Select the closest answer. We know that we need to select the total, or in other words, sum, of units, or in other terms, quantity, from the table ModelOff. We also need to specify our criteria. The first criterion is where item code equals to 10. Notice that the item code is enclosed into brackets because Access does not recognize field names that are more than one word in length. The second criterion is manager in duty equals to John Jones. So, and manager in duty, also enclosed in two brackets, equals to John Jones. Hopefully that should give us the answer that we need. So at this time, we need to run this query. And the answer is 554, which is the closest number to 600. And the answer for this question is B. The next question is, over the entire analysis period, what were the 3 highest selling items by quantity? So let's go back to the SQL view and resolve this question as well. Let's introduce the command called top, and we need to select top 3 item codes. Those of you who are familiar with Excel pivot tables, there is a filtering option in the pivot tables that is also similar to this access feature. Top 3 are just displaying the top 3 items, in this case top 3 item codes, depending on the sort order that we will specify. So select top 3 item codes from table ModelOff, we need to group by that item code as well. And the next step is we need to specify our sorting order, and AccessSQL equivalent is the order by clause by sum of quantity in descending order. So when we run this, the answer that we're getting is item codes are 17, 40, and 8, and selecting from the list of possible answers, the answer is A. Let's move on. The next question is, over the entire analysis period, which salesperson sold the highest cumulative quantity of a single item, and which item was it? To answer this question, we will also continue using the top keyword, but we will change that top 3 to top 1 because we only need to know the name of one salesperson and the associating item code that they sold. So top 1 salesperson item code from our table. The group by clause now is going to include both the salesperson as well as item code. The order by clause is going to be the same. So we're going to select the salesperson that sold the highest number of units and the associating item for those units. So when we run this query, it looks like the salesperson is Kelly and the item is 17. Again, our answer is A. Question number 4. What was the salesperson Wendell's total sales over the analysis period? Select the closest answer. Going back to the SQL view. In order to retrieve the total sales for a particular item, we actually have to perform a calculation. We have to multiply sales price per unit times quantity, which should give us the total sales. So let's do that first. So we're going to do the select sum for total. Within sum, we're going to select sales price per unit times quantity, close parentheses, from our table, where salesperson, and in this case we only know the salesperson first name, we don't know their last name, so we can use the keyword like. We can use the wildcard and say Wendell and another wildcard. Technically speaking, we only need the wildcard after Wendell, but just in case, we can use both wildcards. When we run this code, the answer that we're getting is $316,759.67 in sales, and the closest number to that is C. Next question. How many invoices did salesperson Sally create over the analysis period? Should be pretty simple to answer this question by now. So we need to know how many invoices. We can use the count keyword from, and actually this question is not as easy as it sounds. While it's not difficult, we still need to use the subquery to answer it. So for our from clause, we need to create another query within the main query. We need to select distinct, which is a unique occurrence of invoice number. As you remember from the data structure, we have a list of invoice numbers for each item sold. So each invoice that has more than one item sold would have multiple records. Instead of counting non-unique records, we actually have to count unique records only for the invoice number. And to help us with that, we can use the distinct keyword. Invoice number from our table where salesperson like Sally. In this case, let's use only one wildcard after Sally. Close the parentheses, and let's run. Getting an error message. Looks like I misspelled the name of our table. So let's rerun. The answer is 650, which corresponds to answer D. Moving on to the next question. During the month of May, which postal code bought the most of item 5 by quantity? We know that in this case, we only need to select one record. So let's change our query. We'll use the top one keyword, postal code from table ModelOff where month's name equals May. Well, if you remember our data structure, unfortunately we don't have a field with the month's name present. We do have a date field, which is a regular date format. So let's reformat that date field in a month format in order to answer this question. So where format date format type of months for lowercase m letters equals May, and item code equals 5. Let's group by our postal code and let's sort or order by sum of quantity in descending order. When we run, the answer is 329, and we should select C as our answer key. Question number 7. During the month of February, how many postal codes bought more than 400 products by quantity? We've already done a similar query. We already selected the count number, so let's solve this problem. Let's do select count all from. In this case, we need to create another subquery, which is a little involved, but not too bad. From select postal code from our table group by month's name. Let's introduce two additional functions to format our date field in the month format. Month's name, and we need to specify the months, which is within the date field. So group by month's name, also by postal code, having. That's a new command keyword that we're using in SQL. Having is the equivalent of where clause for an aggregated function. So having month's name equal February. And sum of quantity greater than 400. The issue with the where clause is we cannot perform any aggregation such as sum within the where clause. That is why we have to use the having clause. And this is the syntax to perform this task. So whenever you're aggregating anything in SQL, you would have to use having instead of where. That's the only difference. And let's sort or order by sum of quantity in descending order. And let's close our subquery. Let's run this query. And the answer that we're getting is 5, which corresponds to answer key C. Moving on to question 8. Over the entire dataset, which 3 items did postcode 3020 spend the greatest dollars on? So since we're asked to select 3 items, we know to use the top keyword, top 3 item code from our table name where postal code equals 3020, group by item code, and let's sort it by sum of cost. So we would have to calculate the cost, of course, which is cost per unit times quantity. And descending order. Let's run this. So we're getting item codes 9, 6, and 46, and the answer is A. For question number 9, we're asked the following. What is the rank of salespersons from highest to lowest based on the number of invoices written during the month of May? Let's try to answer this question. We need to select the salesperson from, and instead of our table, we need to do yet another subquery from select distinct. Remember that distinct helps us select unique occurrence of a field, in this case invoice number. To select a salesperson. From table ModelOff, where format date as a month format equals May. Let's close our subquery and specify our group by close by salesperson. Order by count in descending order. Let's run. So the exact order from highest to lowest based on the number of invoices, unique invoices, sold during the month of May is the following: Kelly, Amy, Wendell, Sally, Penny. And the answer is C. Question number 10. What was the invoice number of the largest invoice by revenue that the salesperson Wendell wrote during the analysis period? Let's change our code. So since we're asked to identify only one record, let's use top one, invoice number from our table where salesperson is like Wendell, wildcard, group by invoice number, and order by sum of sales, or sales price per unit times quantity. In descending order. Let's run. The answer is 143, or A. Next question. Over the entire analysis period, what is the rank of salespersons according to the dollar value of discounts given from most discounts to least discounts? So we need to select the name of a salesperson. From our table, we need to group by our salesperson. But instead of sorting by sum of sales, we need to sort by sum of discount given. So that is discount given times which is discount given is in percentage points, times ticket price per unit, and multiply that by the units sold for quantity. And we need to sort in descending order. Let's run. Getting an error message. Actually, the name of this field is ticket price per unit. So let's try to rerun. And we're getting the order of salespeople that we need in terms of the discounts given from the largest discounts to the least discounts. That's Amy, Wendell, Kelly, Benny, and Sally. And the answer is C. Question number 12 seems pretty simple. Which months had the highest revenue? So let's answer it. So select top one, months, name, months, and the date field from table ModelOff. We need to group by this month's name, and we need to sort by sum of sales. So sales price per unit times quantity in descending order. Let's run. The answer is March. The answer key is A. Question 13. Only considering postal codes 3013, 3017, and 3031, which item had the highest total profit during the months of February? So we need to select only one item, so top one item code from our table where postal code is in. That's a new keyword that we're learning, in, following postal codes 3013, 3017, and 3031. We need to group by item code and the months. That's month's name, months, date field, where, or technically speaking, having by months equals February, and then we need to order by our profit in descending order. So to calculate the profit, we need to deduct cost from sales price and multiply that by quantity. So sum sales price per unit minus cost per unit, close parentheses, times quantity in descending order. I think that looks more involved than it actually is. And when we run it, getting an error message, month's name. Oops, I don't need the having by, I actually just need having, close. So let's rerun. The answer is 17 or C. Question 14. What is the rank of months from highest to lowest based on profit over the entire analysis period? So in this case, we know we will need to determine the months. So let's keep the months field, select months from table, group by months, order by sum of sales price per unit, should have kept the profit calculation, minus cost per unit, close parentheses, times quantity, in descending order. So we'll rank our months in descending order in terms of profits. So March was our record month and February was the slowest month of the bunch. The answer is A. Next question. During which 3 months did manager John Jones have the highest cumulative profit, ignoring all sales to postal codes 3019, 3028, and ignoring all sales of items 4, 5, 6, 17, and 18? So since we are asked about 3 months, let's select top 3 months from our table where postal code is in, or actually it's not in, which is the opposite of in, 3019 and 3028. So we're excluding all of the records with these 2 postal codes. And item code not in 4, 5, 6, 17, and 18. So we're excluding all of the records for these items sold. And we're only interested in manager on duty being John Jones. Manager on duty equals John Jones. Then we need to group by our month's name, and we need to order by our profit. So let's recreate our profit. Sum sales price per unit minus cost per unit, close parentheses, times quantity, descending order. Let's run. So these 3 months are March, February, and May. And the last question that we need to resolve today is the following. What quantity of item 3 was sold by salespersons Benny and Kelly together during the month of June? So let's select sum of quantity from our table, where sales person like Penny or salesperson like Kelly. Let's enclose this in parentheses to make sure that this condition is interpreted as 1, and item code equals 3 and month's name months date equals June. Let's run. The answer is 116, or answer key is B. As you can see, if we do enough of these exercises, we can improve our performance. This becomes a rather repetitive exercise, and potentially this could be a more time-efficient way to answer similar questions than using Excel pivot tables. Thank you for your time. Stay tuned for our upcoming videos, and keep in touch on social media.